Hi everyone, I hope you are doing well. I am here with a special video for you all today. This is the walkthrough of my latest deck, Tarot of the Sea. And I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the inspiration for this deck. And then I will walk through each of the 78 cards. And this will probably be a pretty lengthy video because, as you guys know, if you've been following me for a while, I like to talk. But I, also want to offer this as an opportunity for a kind of a mini tarot lesson. I know I have many friends and clients and others who may be interested in learning tarot. So in addition, to me just walking through the deck and showing you the images, I explain why I chose the image that I did. Now you will see that in some cases, and I will explain it, some of the images look a little different than you may see in other decks, and specifically what you've seen in my prior decks, even the Halloween and the Christmas tarot. But as I shared on social media, what's really been interesting about this one is that it wasn't intended to really tell a story. I just knew that I loved the theme, just like I love the Halloween and the Christmas themes, right? I wanted to have a deck based on water and the ocean and mermaids and all of those things. You guys can see I've got a really cool bismuth mermaid tail. I've got I was trying to figure out the background for today, right? And this is just a gorgeous Mother Mary painting. It's just, that water is just a very feminine energy. It's about being in our flow. It's about being in receptive mode. It's about surrender. And so I'm going to get into a lot of that here. And I've got some crystals here and some other things that I'll get into later on. I think I said that I will timestamp these based on major arcana, which out of the 78 cards in a traditional deck, there are 22 major arcana. I still get thrown off with that because the Fool, which we're going to start with, starts with 0. So the major arcana goes 0 to 21. And then you have 4 suits, almost like in a deck of cards. You have cups, which details our emotions, our relationships, typically our romantic relationships and feelings, but it can be friendships and family too. Wands is more of our creative energy, our spark, our passion, our fire. And swords is a pretty challenging suit. I'm not going to lie. Some of the images, more in my Halloween deck, in my Christmas deck maybe than this one, but swords, there can be some ugly cards in there. And, it's a part of life to go through challenges, to go through ups and downs, right? So, a tarot deck does cover so many scenarios and things that we go through. So, there's of course going to be what we would consider not so pleasant cards and some beautiful cards. So we have the swords that also denotes our intellect and a lot of times our actions that we're going to take moving forward, our truth, speaking our truth, those types of things. And then last is Pentacles. Pentacles is associated with our career and our finances, and also our home, our foundation, those types of things. Let's see, I am probably forgetting something else that I wanted to say to you all. But again, I will walk through each card. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So my very first self-created tarot deck is called Sacred Union Tarot. And I created that in December of 2020. So over 2 years ago now. And I have to say that was a lifetime ago, all right? I mean, I think I don't even recognize the person I was 2 months ago, let alone 2 years ago. So that deck specifically, I will put a link to that walkthrough video below if anybody has any interest in that. That specifically was intended to be sort of my autobiography up until that point. It was an explanation of my spiritual awakening. It depicted my journey towards sacred union with a specific person. I identified myself as a twin flame. I still do believe that I am a twin flame, but I know I'm a twin flame, I should say. I don't doubt that, but my perspective on what that means has drastically changed and shifted, as will be depicted in the concepts and the images in this deck and what I talk about in the last 2 years of my journey. I now see that, and I've known this all along, but this is a journey of self. This is a journey of, the males and the females, right? We all have that energy within us. Definitely go through growth and change and transformation, but the feminines especially are learning to love themselves and not to need or rely on a masculine for anything, for self-worth, for validation, for finances, for sex, for happiness, for anything, and it's just been mind-blowing. Sorry guys, my upstairs neighbor, without fail, every time I start to record a video, she starts nonsense. I have no idea. And I get distracted, but I digress. So anyway, where I was headed with that is this deck, it reflects the shift that I have taken in my journey. And it's a journey, again, associated more with the feminine energy, with being receptive, being in flow, bringing in abundance, being self-sufficient, all of those things. So I would say particularly, I feel like the major arcana and the cups suit for me, and the pentacles. A lot of those cards are ones that's more, like, okay, this is like the sequel, so to speak, of my journey. And I feel like I've noticed in, the twin flame community, there really isn't that, attachment to that label or what that means anymore. It's like, okay, this is a journey of self, and there are infinite possibilities and, beautiful high vibrational connections that exist outside of that label. And I've experienced that myself. So anyway, I'm excited to share this with you guys. So we are going to get started, and I'm going to start walking through now the major arcana. So without further ado, here we go. So as I mentioned, the major arcana starts off with the Fool. The Fool is about new beginnings. It's about taking a leap of faith. It's about, it's a surrender, right? And what I love about this image, the traditional Fool card that you see in decks, and it's also in my Sacred Union deck, depicted a different way. It's where somebody is standing on the edge of a cliff often, and they're looking over the cliff. They're maybe preparing themselves to jump, but they're like very hesitant. Here, this is just like all out, like she's in the air, she's launching. And, what I realized, it's like this represents just the complete abandonment, letting go of so many things, of so many attachments, of plans, and of ways and things that I thought my life was going to go so much differently these past 2 years. And, the big one, other than, letting go of this fairy tale of this, happy ending with a specific person, in addition to that, letting go of my desire to have a child, which was a good thing because I now know that I can't have children. And I also quit my job over a year ago. I quit my job, and I completely surrendered to the universe because I, obviously didn't have a partner, didn't have a spouse. I have to have health insurance, like everybody. I literally was like, had no backup. I had like one interview at the place I ended up getting hired. I had no idea what was going to happen, what the compensation would even be if I got hired. I just was like, I got to live on my savings. So I took that leap of faith and I did it. And it, that has just catapulted me onto a whole new journey that's above and beyond my wildest dreams. So I know that was kind of a long intro, but that's kind of sets the precedent for the entire, theme, I feel like, of the deck. The Magician is about manifestation. It's about creation. It's about, the Wizard kind of like having all the tools to just create your reality. It's like, you can see it's kind of hard here. I apologize, guys. I tried so many different ways. I don't even know how. Turn lights on, turn lights off. move the camera around, and I'm still getting a glare no matter what I do. But you can see she's standing by the sea, and she's got literally like a ball of fire in her hands. So to me, that reminds me of that creative energy. It also reminds me of Reiki, um, and that there's a light bulb. It's like all these ideas, all these things, all these possibilities and opportunities. It's like the world's at our fingertips to create it. The High Priestess is number 2. This is a card of our intuition, of our higher knowing, and also taking the high road. It's kind of like, all right, you kind of know maybe what's going on, but maybe you don't call people out on it. You kind of just keep things to yourself, and you're kind of like, okay, I get this, and I'm just going to walk away with grace, right? You kind of just know why people are being flaky, or you know what's going on, and you're just like, whatever. Like, it's kind of like just, I don't have time for drama. The High Priestess just is like, you know what, like, this doesn't resonate. I'm moving forward. If somebody's meant to be in my life, they will. If not, I'm not begging. I'm just not engaging in nonsense. She's just very much in her feminine power. And I love this. She's actually like in a body of water, but there's like a celestial vibe to it too. The Empress. The Empress is a card. It's the Divine Feminine card. And she's just the most, she's just in her freaking goddess energy. She's fertile. She's abundant. She's all these things. And typically the Empress is depicted as a pregnant woman. And here, that is what I ended up doing. Because this woman is absolutely just stunningly gorgeous. You can see she's got like a crown on. She's by the ocean. I mean, it was just the perfect image for me to choose. But what was interesting is when this story, when I realized after I had this image picked out that there kind of is a story here, right? It's like, okay, this is sort of about the sequel to my autobiography, so to speak, but she doesn't look anything like me, right? And it's like, well, yeah, because that's something that I'm not going to have. I'm not going to be pregnant. And in the traditional sense, right, I have creation, of projects and of a new life that I'm birthing. But that really, like, right when I was finishing up this deck is when all that kind of hit, like in November and December, like this, like, letting go of that. So there's this process of I think, that's when my journey really started to shift, as you'll see in the cards. The Emperor is number 4, following the Empress. He is the divine counterpart to the Empress. He's the divine masculine. The Emperor is also a leadership. So he can be like a father figure. He can be like boss, and it doesn't have to be a he, right? It can be a woman, can be in her Emperor energy, right? But typically it's like, if you're doing archetypes, he's the man and the Empress is the woman. And what was interesting was I chose this image. I wasn't having much luck finding, a man like in the setting that I found with the Empress. So this is a statue, and there's so much nuance here because he looks frozen, he looks cold, and it's kind of like, well, yeah, in, my journey, right, my divine masculine quote didn't show up the way I would have said 2 years ago that I thought that was going to happen. I don't have an actual person in my life, right? So this concept, it's kind of like closed off, it's cold, it's not there. But what I love about this more than anything now, to me, it represents the rise of Atlantis. This looks like the king of Atlantis, and that concept, and so many things are coming with water. This year, I can't even, it's just mind blowing, the stuff that's happening, the synchronicities. So I thought that was really powerful. The Hierophant is number 5. The Hierophant is the spiritual advisement, the spiritual guidance, tapping into, our connection to God, source, our higher self. It's our connection to spirit. It's our faith. Okay. It's I think I said being guided by a higher power. So what I love about this is we've got the cross over the ocean and the sunset. So this is just absolutely beautiful. So whatever, religion you identify with or you don't, obviously Christians, who go to church, they identify with the cross and Jesus. Many on the New Age path, the spiritual path, that's maybe not necessarily, quote, a religious path, they recognize and they believe Christ consciousness, as in the return of Christ, isn't him in the physical flesh and the physical body. It's his consciousness coming back into through our hearts, that we connect and come back into oneness, and that's here now. I mean, I feel it. I'm experiencing it. So whatever belief you have, you can use and identify with the Hierophant card, of course. 6 is the Lovers. The Lovers is, this image was actually, when I saw this image, I kind of got the idea for the tarot deck, and I saw this image and I was like, okay, I have to make a deck now, because this was so cool. There's mermaids, a male and a female. It's kind of hard to see with the lighting, but they're embracing. So the Lovers is obviously a card of what it says, lovers, those in a relationship. But it can be a card with dual meanings. If you get this card with a lot of swords around it, or a death card, tower, something like that, negative, quote, negative cards, this could be that someone has a lover, someone isn't being honest, someone's cheating. The Chariot is a card about forward momentum. It's about progress. It's about movement. It can represent vehicles, like cars, like travel, those types of things. It's typically, there's, literally a guy, like, or somebody on a chariot, with horses. I just love this because there's a woman and she's riding a horse in the ocean. So obviously that's why I chose that image. Strength is another positive card. It's what it says. It's a pretty easy, straightforward one. Somebody's got strength and grit and persevering through things. It's also associated with the month of August. It's number 8, and Leo season, which there's a lot of stuff that happens in August with Leo season. A lot of energies, a lot of spiritual awakening, a lot of stuff happens around that time. So typically in tarot decks, you're going to see a lion, and you're going to see a woman riding a lion or walking aside a lion, taming a lion. Obviously that didn't make sense in a sea deck. So what I just love was a woman riding a dolphin. I'm like, how cool is that? I'm guessing that's probably photoshopped. But I just think that's just awesome to depict the Strength card. The Hermit is number 9. 9s are numbers of solitude. And so the Hermit, as a major arcana and an archetype, is, and there's that saying you may have heard people say, I'm going into hermit mode, right? That's a legit thing. It's to be in solitude. It's to be in contemplation. It can represent, someone being celibate, someone just being single, just taking time to themselves. So I've depicted that here with a woman. She is in a boat, and she's like looking outside. She's kind of just contemplating. She's on her own. She's not out there, engaging with the water, engaging with life at that point. She's just kind of doing her own thing. 10 is the Wheel, or also known as the Wheel of Fortune. It's a card definitely of motion, of closing things out. 10s are about closure, but the Wheel, typically it is a positive card. You want, unless there's something you don't want to end, right? And if you get negative cards around and it's like, oh, something's moving forward, something's cycling out, you may not view it as a positive, but typically the Wheel means stuff is turning in your favor. Stuff is starting to go forward and progress in a positive way. So obviously I thought a nautical wheel was a great card, or a great image for this card. Justice. I love this one. This is a card. It's about balance. It's one I look at as having balance within our masculine and feminine energies. Justice can also literally be justice. Like, justice is going to be served. It can represent contracts. It can represent court cases. So if you have a client who's got a court case coming up, something like that, then getting the Justice card is going to be pretty positive, unless it's in reverse or you have other court, bad cards, so to speak, around it. This is an example of one that differs a lot from my Sacred Union Tarot. In my Sacred Union Tarot, there was a man and a woman, and they were balancing like on these swings on the water. And so it was like two people together, like balancing, like as if they were together. Here, I chose a woman in her goddess energy. That's like goddess pose in yoga. She's on the beach, and like it reminds me of the scales, like, which is typically what justice. You'll see scales a lot of times in different decks for the justice card, and I just love it. She's like completely content in her own and balanced in her own energy, which is what this journey is about. It's not about being with someone else. And there's a lot of readers out there that will try to get people to hold on to false hope. And, I think I've made it pretty clear I'm not one of those that'll do that. I do still do some readings on soul connections, and I offer those as private readings, but I do also try to empower people and keep people moving forward and having them focus on their own journey as well. Number 12 is traditionally called the Hanged Man. In a lot of my decks, it ends up being the Hanged Woman, just based on the images that I find being female. So it can be either one. Sounds horrific. It is not. It just means something's in suspension. Something is not moving forward. Something's stuck. Somebody might be stagnant. Somebody might be frustrated. But it can also be an energy of contemplation. So here, this woman is underwater, and she's like bent over backwards because she's like stuck. She's hanging, so to speak. You might see it, I think my Christmas deck, I have somebody on a trapeze. So it's just usually that image of somebody being hanging on hanging by their legs or hanging backwards. They're just completely, it's a little different than hermit, just in the sense, like, hermit, you may choose like to be in hermit mode, right? That's like an energy of self-reflection. Hanged man or hanged woman is one where like things outside, external things may make you feel stuck, if that makes sense. Things may not be moving forward the way you want for some reason. 13 is death. This is a card, it's not a card to be afraid of. It's very rare that this card actually means death, unless you get, many other cards that are like the worst cards in the deck. That might be kind of an omen. But death typically is a transformation. It's a figurative death. It's something ending. It's like a death and rebirth. And so I like to look at it as a rebirth. So this image just took my breath away when I found it. So there's like a skull, and it's it looks like a reef or like some sort of just like a rock formation, but you can see the skull is underwater, and then there's new life like growing above the water. And there's life, like there's, actually I think there's a shark underneath there. So it's kind of like, there's like, maybe somebody betrayed you, maybe something ended, but, look at what's coming on the horizon. So that's how I like to look at the death card. Temperance is 14. Temperance is a card of patience. It's patience, it's healing, it's divine timing. And I love it. A lot of times in my decks, I will depict temperance with an angel, angel wings, sort of. I mean, and in some of them, it's hard to see, but she's kind of got like a little bit of a frustrated look on her face, or kind of like, oh my God, are you serious? Like, this still hasn't happened yet. So, when people get the temperance card, it's like, okay, I've been patient. How long, right? It's divine timing. But it's not a bad card. Okay, 15 is the Devil, and this is another card that kind of scares people sometimes, but it often, it doesn't mean anything evil. It really is tied to our ego and our fears, and it could be addictions, could be obsessions. It's kind of like the vices, right? If you look at it that way, or the things that, just the ways we hold ourselves back. Now, in a traditional tarot deck, often you will see one or two people, and the devil has them in a cage. But a lot of times the cage is unlocked or open, or they have the key to get out. So like they're trapping themselves. Here, the devil, I found this image. It almost looks like the guy has like Neptune, like that god energy. and it's a very sexual kind of card, and they're like above the water, and he's like taking possession of her. Now it's hard to see here, but he does have like a cloth over himself, so he's not naked, but they are naked like underneath. So it is definitely a central card. And so this could be, you know, if I was doing a reading in this deck, definitely pick up on some kind of obsessive energy, possessive energy, maybe somebody just, fantasizing about somebody too much, you know, one person, something like that. The Tower, oh boy, yeah, this is 16 is the Tower. It's the dreaded card that, you know, people don't ever want to get the Tower. Traditionally, it's the card that, you know, there's like fire, literally burning down the tower. People are jumping out. It's kind of a horrific card. So here I found a great image. This is a lighthouse, and you can see that lightning is striking it, and it's on the water there. So I try to reframe the Tower moments, so to speak, instead of like, oh my God, everything's falling apart. You know, it definitely represents an ending, and it can be catastrophic things too. I mean, it can be a job loss, it can be a divorce, it can be a friendship ending, it can be, you know, conflict, you know, things like that. But I try to look at it and frame it as divine intervention. When you frame it as divine intervention, like the universe is clearing your way for the things that are meant for you to come in, it's definitely easier to stay positive about this energy. And what comes after it is healing and alignment and our destiny, so to speak. The Star. The Star is just, this is probably my favorite tarot card ever. I mean, just in general, it's one of my favorites because it's just such a beautiful energy. It's about us healing and becoming in alignment. It's like the Tower comes in, clears the crap that no longer serves to get us back in alignment on our path to where we need to go, to where we're headed. We may need to do some healing as a result of that, but it's like that trusting that guiding light, trusting the universe that you're headed where you need to go. The Moon is next. So that one's a pretty easy one to guess, like the image that I was going to use, right? But it's kind of one of those cards. You get it, it's like, oh, what does this mean, right? Well, I look at it as sometimes things that are hidden, things that we don't know yet, things that haven't come to light. It can be illusions. It can be also energy of, well, it can be our emotions, definitely tied to our emotions, that there's things that we may need to come up, to come to the surface. But I also look at, when I get the Moon card, what's the upcoming full moon? When is it? The new moon? What moon cycle is coming? You know, does this person, you know, does the client, you know, it's a full moon in Pisces. They're a Pisces. That full moon is going to maybe have an impact on them, or maybe they need to do some clearing work around that moon. 19 is the Sun. Traditionally, actually, I don't know, because I don't have like the Rider-Waite Tarot. I've never used that, but a lot of the cards, the decks that you see the Sun, at least for me too, and I think most of my decks, I know Christmas and I know Sacred Union Tarot, I made it, you know, the happy family, the husband, the wife, the baby. Here, I just chose the Sun. I chose the spirit, the spiritual side, and it's hard to see, but there's these images. You can kind of see them there. There's like these light reflections that look like hexagons, which is sacred geometry. You've got that beam of light coming in, which, you know, I love to capture orbs and those types of things. So to me, it's like the Sun, it's like the ultimate joy. And when you're in this energy of like focusing on connecting to the all and to source, none of the other stuff you have or you don't have matters, so to speak. Okay, 20 is Judgment. Judgment has a lot of different meanings based upon, you know, whatever else is coming out in the reading. Traditionally, Judgment, you're going to see a person like standing before like an altar or angels or something like that, awaiting their judgment. But, you know, it's an energy of karma clearing, rebirth, and just kind of like, to me, surrender and like just like connecting to your higher self and like really just peeling back the layers. And so that's why I chose this one. This is a person that's like swimming to the surface, and you can see there's a heart. The opening at the light above them in the water is a heart. So to me, that kind of represented the judgment, not necessarily judgment, because judgment sounds like a negative word, but it's like, okay, you know, things are coming full circle. You're reaping what you sowed. And if, you know, obviously if you've been doing good work and beautiful things, like just keep going and you're going to get there. The World. This is the last of the major arcana, number 21. It is just like the Wheel. It is also about closing something out and moving forward. But like the Wheel, it's like, I feel like the difference is the Wheel, it's like you're moving forward on the path of like maybe of something that you have desired, right? The World, it's kind of like I'm closing out whatever this was, whatever this cycle was. It's done. I'm closing it out. It's finished. It also, the World can also represent travel as well. But you know, depending on the other cards you get, the World is definitely that. And I also sometimes, you know, as I depicted in here, it's kind of like you're living in your own world. Here, this guy is, and this is kind of how I feel, honestly, most days, he's in his own little bubble, like floating above the ocean. And he's walking. It's like he's got his hand like on his head, kind of like he's like looking forward, like where's he headed next. And I felt like through these, especially these last couple years, it's been a whole different existence. Like I feel like I'm anchoring 2 dimensions, and that's what I feel like is represented here. He's like in the etheric dimension, like walking on water, like above reality. It's just sometimes it's like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like, is this real life anymore, right? There's just so many crazy things happening and beautiful things happening and magical things happening and shifts and just the way things are unfolding. So that's why I chose that image. So that is the major arcanas. We are going to move now to the Cups suit. Glitch here. I am starting the Cups suit again because I had an interruption with a delivery that I was not expecting an hour early. So I apologize for the glitch here. I'm going to start over. So as I said before, the Cups suit represents our relationships and our emotions. And so each of the suits go from Ace to King, so you will see that. And when we start with the Cups, we have the Ace of Cups here, and it is the start of a relationship. It is that offer, that toast, that commencement of something. Two of Cups is a divine partnership. It is just a very positive, happy, beautiful relationship where people support each other. And Three of Cups then often leads to a proposal. Now, it doesn't have to be. Three of Cups can also be energy of girlfriends celebrating together, and you know, that's great as well, right? I actually went back and forth trying to decide what I was going to do with this, and because again, I was talking about the shift, and you're going to see it play out as we go along in the rest of these cards. But Ace of Cups, I did have, a beautiful, unexpected, relationship for several months within the last 2 years. And it was not with the person that I created the first deck about. And so, I wanted to depict that and honor that. And, that this was very, this type of energy was present and absolutely beautiful. And I want to encourage people to not stay stuck on one person. And I'm so glad I didn't, keep waiting around, and that I continued to live my life. But ultimately, it was a situation where, I realized like this wasn't where I wanted it to lead. And I also started realizing, as you'll see as we go along, that this journey is really about myself, and ultimately that I'm happier alone, and I'm probably just better off, being close friends with that person, and thankfully we still are. And really, I don't have a desire or need or time to have anyone else in my life right now. I have so many other things going on, and it's a place I never would have thought I would be. If 2 years ago when I made that first deck, if you'd have said you're going to be making a deck, and I think I even joked during that video, like, God, I hope I'm not making the sequel in a year. And little did I know, right? 2 years later, I am making the sequel, and it's completely different than anything I would have ever depicted. So Four of Cups, it's an energy of kind of boredom and discontent, and kind of just like, is this all there is? And so this sort of represents the breaking apart of, you know, that Three of Cups not coming together, as a it's like it didn't progress right to the ultimate relationship. So you can see the guy here. He is kind of on his own, just looking out, kind of like, what did I learn from that relationship? How did I grow? You know, is this all there is? Like, no, this is just the beginning, right? So the Four of Cups, it's like, you've got to look at it. You've got to not look back and not have regrets. You've got to just look forward and be thankful for the lessons. That's what the Four of Cups energy comes about, is when somebody gets stuck in the what ifs and what if I'd have done that. It's like, no, like, this is, you know, there is more to life than this one situation, and what can you learn from it? The Five of Cups is kind of an energy of, like, you know, it and the Four of Cups are honestly very similar, but this is more like, instead of like discontent and like not being happy with where you are, this is like regret. This is like that sadness, like, oh, like, you know, focusing on the past, lamenting about the past. And it's like she's only looking down at like what she lost, what's in front of her. Like, this is, you know, how am I going to go forward? But like, there's this whole vast world like right out here, for her to explore. The Six of Cups. The Six of Cups is an energy of reunions, in a romantic sense. It is also an energy of childhood. So if the Six of Cups comes out, it could be childhood wounds, childhood memories, those types of things. Here in this deck, I did decide to depict it, you know, as that fantasy that many people have about finding that person, that past life soulmate, or having that, you know, a specific person come back. It's like she's looking at him like, literally, like, I can't believe you're here. This is really happening. But as, you know, in many cases, right, that ultimately ends up being a fantasy, which is where we get to the Seven of Cups. This is one that I just love the image so much. I was like, all right, I hate when I have to turn him this way, but I didn't want to lose this image. She's on the beach, she's looking out, and it's very, very dark in the distance, but there's this gorgeous rainbow. And it's hard to see the colors, but there are definitely colors here that are just stunning. And it's like letting go of that illusion, right? It's like dark, and it's like, wow, like getting to the point where, you know, you recognize the past 2 years or whatever stage of it is in your life, that like, it could be friends that have left. It could be, you know, a job. It's like that happy ending, whatever that was, the way you thought life was going to go, that's not happening. It's not there, and you've got to create your own happiness. You've got to get out of fantasy land. You've got to stop living in illusion and holding on to a fantasy. Now, Seven of Cups can also be about opportunities. It can be, I mean, you know, so it's like she's got, like, look what's coming, right? The opportunities are there, but you've got to like get up and actually take action and move forward and go towards the opportunities instead of just staying stuck. So the Eight of Cups, this is where like you do take that action, you do move forward, you walk away. So she's, I think she's like on the side of a cliff by the ocean, and it almost looks like she's in a wedding dress and she's running. She's like freeing herself from that fantasy of like, and actually it looks like she's in a very similar dress. It's a different, you know, image obviously, but you know, it's almost like, and that's why I picked this. she almost looks like she's in a wedding dress, waiting for her, Prince Charming to come, waiting for that fantasy to materialize, and it doesn't. So she goes and she's going to find her own, create her own life, create her own happiness. So the Eight of Cups is about moving on, walking away, moving towards that Ten of Cups, which we'll get to shortly, and walking away from the things that no longer serve. So the Nine of Cups, nines again are energies of solitude, self-love, self-care, and it's joy. A lot of times, it depends on the reader, it depends on the deck. A lot of people, say, oh, the Nine of Cups is like your happy ending. I look at it as 10 is completion, right? 9 is kind of like, you're almost there, but it's like you're finding joy in your solitude. For me, though, I did the 9 and the 10 of Cups a little bit different in this deck for the reasons I've already stated, to depict, like I said, a journey back to self. So for me, this was kind of like, all right, I'm going to go like, move on, find my own, happiness. And then it's like you keep running and running and running, and you realize, like, I can't run for myself anymore. I can't keep running towards a fantasy or, thinking that at some point I'm going to stop and, the rainbow is going to be there. It's like you have to create your own. And so this is literally about just jumping full on into the water and embracing it, embracing the coldness, embracing the, the emotion, like letting go, surrendering, and like just like feeling that that grief, and then finding joy in it, in the solitude. And so ultimately, like when you wash away like all the things that no longer serve, and you really get into those emotions, then you get to the Ten of Cups, and the Ten of Cups is probably the one that's that and the Ten of Pentacles are probably the most like different from traditional decks, and then also my other decks that I've created. But the Ten of Cups is always usually the man, the woman, and the baby. Or in my Sacred Union Tarot deck, I depicted a pregnant woman with a man's, he was behind her holding her belly, and they were holding her belly, because that at that point in my life, that was my happy ending, right? Now it's like, this is the happy ending. It's about, like, there's a mermaid here. She's literally basking in the golden light, which is the golden light of oneness. She's magnetic. She's attracting things. You can't see it because it's actually, the image is cut off, and I didn't intend to have it in here, or I would have done it sideways. But there's actually a surfer guy that's kind of like walking towards her, just mesmerized. But she's kind of oblivious. She's like, whatever, I'm in my own world, I don't need this. She has kind of a no-nonsense look on her face, and I think she actually has a crown on her head. So it's kind of like the culmination of being just completely like balanced in yourself, and being just at one with everything, to the point where, the Ten of Cups you thought you wanted or needed doesn't matter anymore. So that's like what I feel like, at least for me, for my journey, has been the purpose of it. And now whatever comes next, and whatever, comes in, is just, another beautiful gift. And so I hope that many people can look at it that way, and focus on themselves. So now let's get to what's called the court cards. The court cards are the pages, the knights, the queens, and the kings. Pages typically represent children, so I do have them as children in my decks. There's an innocent energy about them. It can also be immature. So depending on, the context of the reading. Pages also represent communication. So they can be communication or offers. So the Page of Cups, I just thought this little girl was absolutely adorable. She's excited, and she's offering that shovel, which kind of looks like a cup, out to somebody. So, this can be a love offer. It can be like a love letter, communication about love, or just, a child, in your life showing you love. The Maiden of Cups. Now, in my self-created deck, tarot decks, I, other than the Sacred Union Tarot, I did use knights for that. In Halloween, Christmas, and this deck, the knights are maidens. That's the only difference. The main reason being, I just honestly couldn't find enough images of guys that worked, and I just I think the energy of maidens is actually, because a lot of my decks appeal to the divine feminine anyway. It just fits. So maidens obviously are not quite queens yet, just like knights aren't quite kings. They're on their journey. They're progressing. They're beyond a page, but often they represent movement. Now, the Maiden of Cups, this could be a romantic gesture. She might be like, asking someone on a date or wanting to go on a date with someone. But it might not, if she's not yet a queen or a king, there might not be a commitment there. But of all the knights, I would say probably the Maiden of Cups and the Maiden of Pentacles are going to be the most reliable ones, depending on, the context. Then you have the Queen of Cups. The Queen of Cups is another one that is a lot different, because most of the Queen of Cups in my decks, she's pregnant or holding a baby. Again, because that was, the journey that I thought I was on. I have 4 cats, and they are my babies. And so I just can't believe I found this image. I was like, okay, I almost cried. But there's this woman holding a little cat by the ocean, and the little cat is on it looks like it's on a leash or collar, and it's looking at the water. And this little cat looks a lot like my smallest cat, Pip. So I just thought that's just so sweet. But Queen of Cups is a very loving energy, motherly. She's going to be very giving, very much, a loving partner in a relationship. It's a very positive energy. There's really not, unless it's in reversed or something like that, or it's clear that somebody's not, you've got negative cards around there, that somebody's not, acting in this way. This is usually a very positive energy, just like the King of Cups. The King of Cups is somebody who's emotionally available, who is present, who is, has an open heart. And if he shows up as a king, that means, he wants a relationship. He's ready for a relationship. And he's also, a good father. I just thought I love this image of the guy walking on the beach with a little baby. So I did choose that one for the king. Okay, now we are going to move on to wands. Wands, again, are our creative energy, our spark, our passion. And it is, these are cards where we typically take action. So the Ace, again, is a new beginning. I just loved the image here because of the shooting stars. I mean, how is that like anything but wands energy, right? But there is a couple down here in a boat kissing. So it could be, a lot of times, other than Ace of Cups, if you see Ace of Wands, that could be a passionate love affair, a new, somebody coming in and professing feelings or attraction to someone in that situation. Two of Wands, that is an energy of manifestation. It's kind of like putting out there, like, which way do you want to go? I love this because, obviously the guy is holding up 2 wands. But again, just think of, I associate the 2 of Wands quite a bit with the Magician, especially if you get both of those in a reading. It's kind of like, okay, somebody's got a lot of power to manifest the things that they want, and to be in creative energy, and it's excitement. It's just like having a lot to be, happy about, and a lot of different, just it could be too, like friendships and just exciting contacts and people coming into your life. 3 of Wands. Well, the 2 of Wands, you can see he's like on the cliff, like putting it out there, like, yeah, this is what I want, and these are things this is what I'm gonna do. The 3 is actually taking the action to get out there and to bring it into action. So it's like having the idea, putting it out there was the 2, and then the 3rd step is like taking, actually going out and doing it. And so this person is out surfing the wave, and they're kind of like just going with the flow, like to the creative flow is what I view that as. Four of Wands is a traditionally a marriage card. And so in most decks, and in I think all three of my other decks, I depict a wedding here. It also represents, though, a foundation, our security, our stability, and our foundation. So I focused on that in this deck. This is a gorgeous house by the sea. So it's like, yeah, like, you know, whereas I used to, you know, have the focus on the marriage, right? It's like, I don't know that that's what I want anymore. I'm more like, yeah, I want to travel, right? Or heck, maybe someday have a property like this somewhere, or you know, somewhere, or I'm just, you know, abundant enough that I can just go to this type of place whenever I want, right? That's the energy I'm in now. Five of Wands. Now, when we get it, the Wands suit is one that can be a little confusing because it kind of seems like every other card is like, I don't want to, like, you know, stereotype good or bad, but it kind of seems like you start getting into like, well, this card's kind of a challenging card. This card's awesome. That, you know, so it's a suit that can be a little confusing to learn. Five of Wands is a conflict and competition. It can be drama. It's kind of like the drama card, or you know, but a lot of it, you know, so it could be drama with, you know, people or toxic people, or people causing conflict and things like that, and stress. But a lot of times it's us comparing ourselves to others, us, what we see on social media. Like this guy, he's underwater and he's carrying this really heavy rock and like pushing himself, but like there's no one else around him. He's only competing with himself. So that's one that you look at, the energy in the situation and the cards around. Then you get to Six of Wands. Six of Wands is the victory and success. Like, I did it. A lot of times it can be a job offer, or some sort of opportunity coming in. You know, it's like that culmination of you know, what you were manifesting in the 2 and the 3, which I know sounds a little weird. That's why the wands are a little confusing, because it seems like the 10 of Wands would be the completion, right? But it's not. And I think there's some reason for that, which is kind of like I'm getting some channeling about that, so we'll talk about it. But Six of Wands, it's like she's opened the door. She's went through, there's like an open door here. She's like, oh my God. I mean, she's got this view, but she's like jumping up and down, like she did it. She did it. Sometimes though, when we have, you know, intense passions about things, we're trying to manifest, we're trying to create, trying to bring things, you know, we put in so much effort, right? Especially if it's like a side business, or maybe we're studying, or, you know, all these different things. And we can really burn the candle at both ends, and it can just become this like overwhelming type of burdensome type of thing. So Seven of Wands though, we're not quite there yet. Seven of Wands is an energy of, it's perseverance, but it can also be somebody being guarded, and somebody being like defensive, which is kind of weird, because it's like we just went from victory and success, right? We go from conflict and competition. It seems like this would come next, but you know, it's so I've got her by the ocean. There's a woman. It's kind of hard to see her face because it's a shadow, but she's kind of blocking her hand up, like, nope, like, back off. But to me, it's like this can be about setting boundaries, right? It's like once you get to the point maybe where you achieve like the things that you want, you're like less likely to tolerate, you know, nonsense, and you're going to set boundaries for yourself to move forward. Eight of Wands is a positive card. It is about communication, and it's to me definitely things moving quickly. So it could be that opportunity, again, coming in, you getting the job offer, you hearing from somebody. Eight of Wands, you're typically, it's like you want to communicate, or you're going to communicate, you're going to get communication, most likely. I love this one because it's like there's a person, I don't even know how this is set up, but it's like some kind of a wheel of like fireworks, or like a sparkler, but it looks like an 8 with the reflection in the water, which is really cool. Okay, so 9 and 10 of Wands. 9 of Wands is kind of like feeling downtrodden, and so it's possible too, although most of the time, you know, 8 of Wands like is communication, you know, sometimes maybe it's news we don't want to hear. So, you know, 9, you might kind of go back on this energy of like back to the drawing board. You might not have confidence You might feel like, oh my gosh, like I've been on this journey so long, or whatever it is you're working forward towards, that you kind of lose your motivation. So that's what I have here. She's carrying a staff, and it's kind of dark, and she's like walking towards the sea with her head down. So that's where it's like somebody's just tired. They're tired, and they've been, putting a lot of work into it. The 10 is where we get to the point where we're totally burned out, and totally overwhelmed, and just like things aren't balanced. We may not have teamwork or help in our lives. So she's here just kind of like, oh my God, like I can't keep doing this. So again, the wands, I realize that's one you kind of have to work with a lot to really learn the nuances. But most of the rest of them are pretty straightforward. Oh, we do have the court cards here, lest I forget, because the court cards are kind of a pain to deal with. So we have the page, of course, the child, and he's holding a wand, not a sparkly wand, but it's like a little toy. It looks like a balloon, or it has some like stuff in it, but he's excited. And you could see like Page of Wands, that's an exciting energy. It's like, yay, 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 I've got the best news. I want to share it with you. So typically this is a positive card. It could, again, be like somebody that's immature and childish, and just like very impulsive, and does things right and doesn't really follow through. Maiden of Wands is like the Knight of Wands. This is one, if you get the Knight of Wands or the Maiden of Wands, she's the playboy, the playgirl, whatever you want to say. She's the player. Of all the knights, maidens, she's not going to stick around. She's just here for a good time. You can see she's like, yeah, hey. She's the one that will like ghost you, come in and out of your life, be like, inconsistent. She's probably not going to be relationship material. It also could denote, though, like, a passionate love affair, a passionate encounter. So it just depends on the other cards around. The Queen of Wands, she is confident. She is no nonsense. And she's not afraid to burn bridges. I love that energy here. She's got that fire, walking along the beach, kind of looking out behind her, kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like, I'm not afraid to walk this path alone. King of Wands, love this. I mean, you can imagine he's got confidence, just very much like the Queen. He's passionate. He's in his like, manifesting energy. Very much similar energies here. Just fire, just excitement, just out there and doing things. It's almost like, too, I love this one because it almost reminds me of the guy on the cliff in Two of Wands, where he had his wands out there, and it's like now he's like jumping for joy because like he's done it, right? He's mastered. Kings are masters, just like queens. They've mastered the process. Okay, so now we are going to move to swords. Swords is not not my favorite. Again, this is about our thoughts. And it also can be about action, and a lot of this is about our heartbreak and truths coming out. Ace of Swords. This one is, of all the aces, probably the least positive. Not that it's not positive, but it's often kind of a challenging beginning. It can, come after something painful has ended. Maybe after we've had clarity, we've had insight into something, and kind of the light bulb goes off, like, oh, that's why that happened. That's why I have the light bulb floating in the ocean. I thought that was a really cool way to depict it. And there's a world like in it. It's like a whole new world starting. So we may be starting over, starting a fresh chapter. Two of Swords. This is the card of crossroads. It's like when you get the Two of Swords, there's a decision. Somebody is weighing a decision, and often it's kind of weighing heavily, like which way am I going to go? Which direction am I going to go? And they're trying to figure out, and they're very much in their head. Swords energy, you're very much in your head about things. Three of Swords is probably one of the, what I'd say, one of the ugly cards, kind of like the Tower. The Tower I look at as, when you look at the Tower as divine intervention, it's kind of like, I don't feel like as much of a negative card. Three of Swords, it's like when somebody, you know, breaks your heart. Of course, you know, if a tower moment happens, if there's a death or something like that, obviously, you know, it creates Three of Swords energy, right? But what I chose for this image was lightning, very much like the lightning striking the tower. It's up here, and there's a boat, and then there's a guy, like there's somebody drowning, literally. It's hard to see, but there's like a scar. There's like a scar, and their hand's all bloody, but there's light coming. They're reaching up above the water, and they're starting to heal. So it's like they're underwater still. They've been devastated, had some sort of tower moment happen, but it's like in the past. I like this image because it's like they're ahead of it now. They're starting to get through it. Versus sometimes you'll see in decks, somebody's literally like bent over and got like a sword, like swords like in their chest, or there's a heart that's got swords in it. You know, this I kind of at least like to say, okay, if we get this one, somebody's like starting to move through it. Four of Swords comes after that horrific Three of Swords heartbreak, so naturally it's a card about healing, rest, recovery, healing. So I love this image. This is a mermaid, and she is resting and sleeping like on a ledge. She's got like her arm up, and she's resting, and she looks very tired. Understandably, because when you go through a Three of Swords, you need some time to heal. And so when you get through the four, you're thinking, okay, I'm good to go, but then the Five of Swords is there. The Five of Swords, you know, sometimes to me it could represent maybe like the stuff from the Three of Swords. We haven't really worked through it, right? And it comes back. It's keeping us from moving forward. But Five of Swords also can represent, you know, it's like the smiling snake card. It can be even, you know, Three of Swords is more of like a general heartbreak. It could be you're devastated because someone passed away. You're devastated because you lost your job. You're devastated because, you know, someone moved away, or, you know, something like that. The Five of Swords is more somebody actually betrayed you. Somebody actually like stabbed you in the back. So what I chose for this one, let me see, you have to turn it. So we've got her here, but it's a mermaid. Actually, this is probably the best way to look at it. She's like partially under the water. It looks like she's almost been killed or attacked, and there's somebody standing there with, there's a pair of shoes standing there, like somebody has done this to her and isn't helping her. Okay, so I know it's a very dark image, but the Five of Swords is a very dark energy, so that's why you often see something like that, you know, depicted in these cards. Now, the good thing is, after a five, you know, if you get to the six, you're moving on to calmer waters. You're moving through it. You're moving towards the light. So a lot of times you'll see a ship denoted in a Six of Swords card, which is what I have here, and I have the sun, because we're moving away from all that dark stuff. Until we don't, because there's more dark stuff coming in this suit. So the Seven of Swords, that is another card that can be about betrayal or deception. But it also can be a card about somebody wearing a false mask, somebody deceiving themselves, somebody deceiving you. It can also be a card of strategizing. So it's not always a negative card. But here I chose the image. There's a man and a woman hugging by the ocean, and she's looking at her phone and like behind his back. So I thought that was, you know, a good depiction of what the Seven of Swords kind of energy is. This person is like not being their true self, and isn't, you know, and obviously is engaged in something else besides the person in front of her. Eight of Swords is an energy sort of like the devil. It's where it's like a self-imposed imprisonment. But whereas the devil could be more like external things, like, you know, our, you know, addictions or obsessiveness over, you know, something like that. The Eight of Swords is more like anxiety. It's like being trapped in our head, and us kind of being our own worst enemy. So there's a mermaid here, and she's like looking all helpless, and I think she's even got a chain like around her, like, but she can clearly get herself out. She can clearly take her hands and untie herself. And so that's when you get the Eight of Swords energy. It's like you're doing this to yourself, and it's, you know, something that, you know, you have the power to free yourself from. Just as with the Nine of Swords. The Nine of Swords is probably a more intense energy than kind of just being stuck in your head and like worried about something. Nine of Swords is like literally sleepless nights, major anxiety, major stress, and literally like drowning. Like you feel like you're drowning emotionally. So when you get the Nine of Swords, or somebody gets the Nine of Swords card, you know, they definitely have a lot going on. The Ten of Swords is the act, like the completion of this painful cycle. So it is often depicted as a death. A lot of times in a lot of traditional tarot decks, you'll see 10 swords in somebody's back and the person's literally dead. Here, this woman is in the water, and it reminds me of the Five of Swords card, although it's not a mermaid, but like she's like left for dead. So I know that, like I said, the swords are kind of ugly. But the good thing is, like, when you get the 10, it's like, okay, you're done dealing with it. You've moved through it. It's happened. It's, you know, now you've got to heal. So the court cards here, the Page of Swords. Page of Swords is one I especially look at as a communication card. I look at it as somebody picking up their sword and like either initiating communication or cutting off communication. So it's one of those, you look at the other cards around you where it's like, now if I were to get this in this deck, it's most likely going to be cutting off communication because of the image I chose. Again, I read the images as well as the meanings of the cards. Here, this little girl, it's kind of a black and white, it's kind of a dark, sad sort of energy, and she's like, there's swinging over the ocean, but she's got her back turned. She's like not wanting to talk to anybody. Maiden of Swords is, again, the Knight of Swords. They can be very much about their truth. It's very much speaking their truth, finding their truth, seeking the truth, taking action, moving forward. But I get to, it's almost like, and of course now my cat, I've had so many interruptions. Like my cat is howling in the background because he wants the faucet turned on. I promise he's okay. The Maiden of Swords, she's getting, you know, when we get to the Queen, this is, you know, a little bit different from the Queen of Wands, where I was talking about not taking crap from anybody, right? And being confident, and burning bridges. But this, like, the Queen of Swords is kind of like the Ice Queen. When you get to, I mean, this, like, to me is like, if any of the the queens in the deck, you know, the Queen of Swords is a bitch. Like, she is. She can be like totally like the Ice Queen. Like, she's not afraid to piss people off. She doesn't really get in her emotions. She's kind of like, just whatever. I'm cutting you off. I'm done. And so the Maiden, you can see she's kind of heading there. She's standing in front of, she's like in this ice dress. It looks almost like frozen like lake, right? She's kind of like standing there like, yeah, whatever. So I chose that for a reason. A lot of times you'll see the Knight of Swords as like somebody taking swift action, moving forward. Here it's like she's kind of coming more towards that Queen energy, where she's just gonna like cut people out of her life and kind of just close off to like anyone else, right? And a lot of it could be because of all of the prior cards, the pain, the betrayals, the things she's had where she's just done and had enough. So obviously, you know, when you're doing a reading, you know, you don't want somebody, you know, to be in that energy all the time. That's not balanced. But it's an archetype that we start to see that comes out. And we can see why based on somebody who's went through all those things. They may start to become cold and close their heart off. Then they get to the Queen energy, and she's walking, and she's like in this, like, you can't really see the expression on her face, but through this, but she's just like, I'm not afraid to pick up my sword and to be done and to cut things away. She's kind of intimidating. King of Swords, he's one, again, that's swift, not afraid to move forward, not afraid to take action, not afraid to plow through, you know, I guess like the BS, right? So I have him on a jet ski. But what I get here, you know, the water's emotions. So King of Swords, that energy, they often aren't in their emotions. They're in their head. Of course, now I'm coughing because I'm like throat chakra clearing. A King of Swords might be his authentic self, but, you know, they might skate over the water and not really dive in. Not like a King of Cups would. All right, you guys. If you've stuck with me this whole time, I appreciate it, because I know it's been kind of a chaotic reading here. But we're going to move on to Pentacles now. The last suit. The Pentacles, again, is the career, finances, home, foundation, all those beautiful things. So I just love this. And actually, 2 of the cards in this suit are pictures that I've taken on my journey in the last 2 years. Excuse me. The Ace of Pentacles. Just like the other aces, that is a new beginning, a solid start, right? Something tangible. Like if you have an Ace of Pentacles, right, it's going to be, you know, Ace of Wands might be a passionate, you know, oh, you have a passionate encounter with somebody. If the Ace of Pentacles shows up with that, that's like, okay, they're going to stick around, right? But it also could be a job offer. It can be getting a new home. But this is the Ace of Pentacles. Pentacles, again, career, finances. A lot of times you will see them represented as coins in tarot decks, and they look like discs, you know, in a lot of the traditional tarot decks. This is actually, when I was in Florida in September of 2021, you guys, I still can't believe this. Like, I found a whole sand dollar. I can't believe, like, I found it. I can't believe, because this was a place, there were not a ton of shells. And I mean, usually find pieces. I've never even found like a piece of one, I don't think. And it's mind blowing. And like, it made it home with me. Like, I wrapped it and put it in my carry-on in this like box. And like, it's so pivotal, because like, I was at the point where I was so miserable in my job, right? Pentacles. And this, like, I looked this up, and like, when you find something like this, like, there's 5 points in it. You know, the 5 lines. 5s are about difficult change. And, you know, it wasn't long after that I decided to quit my job. You know, that's that Fool energy. So it's kind of like things coming full circle, right? Because it's like I took that leap of faith, and look what I found. And it was, yeah, this was like a metaphorical thing, right? But like, it really ended up happening in reality. And I still am just like astounded. So just things like, you know, when you find things in nature, you know, it's like speaking to you. You know, you're getting messages from the universe, from the guides, from, you know, angels, whatever you want to, you know, however you want to say it. 2 of Pentacles. This can be about juggling priorities. Like, maybe you've got too much going on. Maybe it's work-life balance. You know, you're trying to find, like, oh my gosh, I want to have time to, you know, exercise more, but my job is, you know, it's that type of energy where it's like you're trying to juggle too much. So I love this. There's a guy, he's juggling on the ocean, like, or, you know, overlooking the ocean. So I'm like, how perfect is that? 3 of Pentacles, that is a beautiful card. It's about teamwork and cooperation. So, you know, in a relationship reading, you know, the 3 of Pentacles, that's a good card, because that means somebody's going to show up and be helpful, and you know, or if it's about a career, finances, a work situation, somebody is, you know, there's a good team surrounding you. So I love this image. This is like people in the water holding hands, and it's like they've made this wheel, or like this coin shape. So I just thought that was really cool. Now, this is where it gets a little bit, really, there's really only the 4 and the 5 of Pentacles are kind of like the negative. They're not negative, but they're not like the best cards in the suit. 4 of Pentacles is a scarcity mindset. It's kind of like, oh my God, I don't have enough. I don't have enough. You know, I'm struggling for money. Could be you're spending too much money. It could be like feeling like I'm never going to get this job, or, you know, it's just being in that mindset that you're not enough, or you're not worthy. And so the image I chose, there was this beach bar, and it's totally empty. There's no one there. So it's like failing, like a failing business, like having that attitude, like, oh, like it's never going to work out. You don't want to be in that energy, right? 5 of Pentacles, that is an energy of feeling like you're left out in the cold. Like somebody walked away from you. Somebody, you know, just closed themselves off to you, or like you're just like, it could be a family dynamic, a relationship dynamic. It's kind of like a door is closing, maybe, in some regard. I chose this one. This guy is standing on this ledge. There's actually a shark coming in, so it's kind of like he's out there on his own and he's kind of got to fend for himself. And this also kind of reminds me of the Death card too, although the Five of Pentacles typically doesn't. But it is kind of like someone shutting you out, a door is being closed for a reason. Like maybe you need to pursue another job if like you're being passed over for a promotion or something like that. The Six of Pentacles is an energy of balance. It's equal give and take. It is, you know, it's where you want to be. Where the Two of Pentacles is like you're juggling things. When you get to the Six, it's like you've got it all balanced. I went back and forth, and I had different images I picked out for this one, and ultimately I just loved, I wanted this so badly to be in the deck. So this is, I didn't bring this home with me just because I think it would have been a mess to bring home, and but it was this amazing shell like I found on the beach. I was walking and it looks like angel wings. You could say it looks like angel wings or a heart. It literally was, it was laying like that. It's just stunningly beautiful. And it's, you know, it is a physical, tangible object that came from the ocean. So in my mind, I read it as Six of Pentacles balance. That's balancing your emotional self, and, you know, not, you know, to the point where you're working so hard, you're ignoring your emotions. It's also about balancing your spirit and your spiritual life and like your earth existence. So that's why I chose that. The Seven of Pentacles is about planting seeds. It's about putting an effort. It's definitely a card that's a slower card. Whereas you get the Chariot, you get the Eight of Wands, the Wheel, like something's happening fast. Seven of Pentacles, it's like 7 months, you know, or longer. It's a slow energy. You're putting all this work, planting seeds, but you may not see the effort for a while. So I chose the sandcastle. Like somebody's built it. It's a small little thing they've built, and there's a feather sticking out of it. And what I love is it's like you're giving it to spirit. Like you're trusting that like what you're building is going to blossom in time and become bigger than, you know, than you see it is now. Eight of Pentacles is a progression of that. It's like you keep putting in the work, putting in the effort. You might be studying something. This is, you know, I get this card. It's like somebody wants to go back to school, or somebody's working on bettering themselves in some way. They're just putting a lot of work on themselves. So here's a guy building a sandcastle. So I thought that was fun. Nine of Pentacles is a card about self-employment. It is a card about you know, projects that you want to take on. It's about abundance. It can be about just kind of like living your best life, and just getting to a point where you're really happy in your career, and like, you know, you're just have all these opportunities coming in. It's really just like things coming to fruition. I chose this image. This woman is working on her laptop by the beach, because I've done a lot of that, especially this last summer. You know, I went to Florida and I worked from a beach chair, and I thought that was awesome. All right, guys, my battery's getting low, so I'm going to have to move quickly on this. Ten of Pentacles typically is the happy family. And here, though, you know, she's alone looking out. It's like maybe that's her penthouse. Maybe she's on vacation. Maybe she has a lover who's going to come out and join her. Who knows? But she's living her best life. Page of Pentacles. This is writing a new chapter. This can be about communication also, but I read this as like taking steps to start a new life. Maiden. This is like the knight. She's slowly moving towards her dreams. She's on the deck. She's not on the ship yet. The Queen. She's got it all together. She's got her shit together. She's living her best life. That's her yacht. She's doing it all. The King is in the same energy. He's abundant. He's traveling. He's doing all these amazing things, living his best life. So I hope you guys like that. Sorry to rush it at the end. If you would like to purchase this deck, the link is down below. And if you guys would like a reading, you know, with this deck, or just a general reading with me, that information is also down below. I appreciate you guys so much, and take care until next time.